So we have an awesome speaker today, Brandy Salazar. She's a life coach, a marriage coach, but more importantly, an investor. And so she's going to give us some secrets on life, marriage, and real estate. Right? Party started?
Yeah, why don't you give the announcements about our bar camp real quick.
April 29th is our third annual bar camp. If you haven't been there before, you can ask around. It's a great full day, kind of a boot camp, different speakers, different topics, and then we have breakout sessions, we have group sessions, so we pretty much cover everything from newbie stuff to out-of-state buy and hold to flips to every aspect of it. So definitely, if you're not signed up already, sign up for that. You can see it on our meetup. And if you're a member, then you are included. If you're not a member, it's $47, I think, for the day. But if you're not a member, you should be. So, and then we have an out-of-state mastermind on the 22nd, I believe. You guys know more than me. The 22nd at Vanessa's Bistro. Last time we had it at Buttercup, but we're going to have it upstairs at Vanessa's Bistro. So if you're interested, it's at 12 noon on Wednesday, February 22nd. And it's just kind of a group chat about out-of-state, where people are buying, and what they're doing. So, all right. Oh, Eckstein.
Oh yeah, and then Scott Hayes actually is going to talk to us a little bit on the 22nd because he's been doing a lot of analysis of different markets, and he's going to give us some of his thoughts on what he found out looking at 5 or 6 different markets, I assume. Yeah. So whoever's wants to go to that, I think that'll be good. And then we're also going to do the main topic is mostly marketing, how to find deals out of state, and actually I think Brandy will touch on some strategies she uses locally, which is good. And anyway, let me introduce Brandy. I originally met Brandy. We're both part of a nonprofit called One Life Fully Lived, and they do an annual West Coast event. But you guys should totally go write this down. The website's onelifefullylived.org. So everybody, our good friend Tim Rode runs that group. And so I originally met Brandy there, and then this past event, I actually donated, I think it was like $4,000, and I got all these great coaches, and Brandy was one of my coaches, so she's the first person I did 3 consecutive calls with. Everybody else I still haven't even done my 3 calls, and I just told someone else, said she was the best coach so far. So I haven't had John Burkhoff yet, but anyway, so really cool. What I like about Brandy, she's started in the commercial. We're going to have her give you her background, but when my coaching calls, the biggest takeaway is her success really came from being good with systems, and that's kind of my one thing that I really need to work on. So the way you break down like a task, and then you can assign that task, and that's how she was able to scale up. And her companies did somewhere around 1,000 flips. They started at a great time, obviously buying off the steps, right? When prices were at the bottom. Right now we're a little bit above peak here in the Bay Area, actually a lot above peak. So it's changed, but she developed really cool systems, and she also has a small team, a Keller Williams realty team. She doesn't practice anymore, but she developed and taught other agents how to cultivate off-market deals and things, which I thought is interesting, because of a lot of us, our big problem is finding deals, right? So she's going to touch on that, touch on systems and a bunch of other stuff, but let me bring up Brandy, and we'll kind of kick it off from here.
Are you need a mic me?
Oh, I don't think we have a mic. Oh, this is.
That's your mic.
Okay, Tom, we're going to sit close. Is that okay?
That's good.
I don't want Lance to get jealous. That's her husband. Okay, so Brandy, if you don't mind, why don't you just give us your background about how you got started in real estate and how you evolved it and grew it, and then we'll start there.
Perfect.
Hi, everybody. I'm really honored to be here. So I started in commercial construction at a really young age, and found myself in an office management position at a commercial development company, and worked my way up to director of development and scaled that business into other counties of California and into Nevada. And when the market started to crash in '07, '08, my partner came to me and said, what do you think about residential flipping? And I said, we do commercial. I'm not really sure about this. So long story short, I learned the business model, and we started flipping houses. And at the time in 2008, you were able to buy a lot of properties on the courthouse steps. And so we began to scale that business. We brought on more investors and got it to a place where we were doing, we had $30 million of investor dollars, and we're doing about 200 houses a year. And that worked quite well until about 2011, when the market started to shift. We had a couple of large funds come into the market, and they were buying buy and holds. Blackstone and Waypoint were buying buy and holds on our courthouse steps. So they really squeezed a lot of us local investors off the steps, and to maintain our business model and keep all of our investor dollars spent, we had to come up with a few different strategies. So we had at the time a boutique brokerage where we would list our own houses through our brokerage. And I started thinking about different ways to find deals. And I started thinking, I'm like, well, what better than real estate agents? So how do I get to the most amount of real estate agents the quickest? And I found Keller Williams. And they have the most amount of agents, the most amount of offices in the area. And so I took me and the rest of our agents over to Keller Williams, and I started speaking in all of their offices. And what I would do is I would teach agents how to find deals, how to work with investors, and how to convert deals. So in doing that, I was able to maintain our volume of about 200 houses a year through what I called the storm. And yeah, and I'm actually still with Keller Williams. I don't practice real estate, but yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of new people in here. I think we'll start with that because a lot of newbies coming in. So if somebody was just getting started, what advice would you give them, especially at kind of like where we're at with the market and kind of like, you know, just a little bit of, you know, good information that they could probably take and run with and implement? You know, where would you start? Where would you look for leads?
Well, I would start by understanding how to underwrite deals. I think that is one of the most important skills in our business. Comping properties can range. You know, one appraiser can say one amount, another appraisal will say another amount. So the more, I would make it a daily practice. I would take at least 5 properties a day. This is what I did with my new acquisitions agents. I would throw 5 addresses at them. 5 a day. They had to send me, give me a printout of what they thought the property was worth, and the comps to support it. So I think that is a very, very important skill. I think off-market deals, I think there's I'm sure you guys have talked a lot about mailers are a great one. I'm a big fan of circle prospecting. I have a new acquisitions agent that I just brought on recently. And so I had this one deal that we closed, and it did really well, it performed well. So I said, I'm gonna give you this contract, I'm gonna fill it out, I'm gonna sign it, and I'm gonna put the offer price as the highest price I'll pay in this neighborhood, and I want you to door knock with this offer. And he found 3 more deals in that neighborhood. So just by door knocking and showing this offer, I have a buyer for your property, I have an investor that'll pay cash. The deals didn't end up working for me, but he had other listings, but he found 3 deals in that neighborhood. So that's a great way, circle prospecting. And yeah, mailers are great. Networking. My model's a little bit different than new agents, but I think understanding what you're looking for is step 1 for sure.
Thank you. Because I think, I think that was a great nugget. Just if you're new, I think a lot of people that are new, everybody gets excited about real estate because we see TV shows. Everybody talks about how much money they're making. So as the market cycles, up and down, we're we're nearing a peak market cycle. Michael, would you agree? Or?
I'm not sure.
Well, anyways, tomorrow.
Tomorrow night, that's right.
Tomorrow night, Robert Campbell's forecasting.
Yeah, Robert Campbell is a real estate economist and statistician. He's been extremely accurate in his predictions about the market, and tomorrow night he's going to be speaking at our event. Everyone is invited to come out to that if you'd like to come and hear what he has to say. He will be giving his 2017 housing forecast, and as he likes to say, what will happen, and more importantly, why. So we hope you'll come out and visit with us and hear what he has to say. He's been very accurate. Yes. Corte Madera, 4 miles north of the Golden Gate Bridge. And can I give our website?
Yeah.
Website you can go to get all the information you need is www.bawb.info. www.bawb.info. And also, just to dovetail on what you're saying, we also have a data mining gentleman that'll be there tomorrow night. Interesting way to find properties is to target owners of property that have high probabilities of needing to sell. A lot of them are life event oriented. He'll be one of our speakers tomorrow night also.
Yeah, and that's the thing, guys. I would go to as many, like that's what I still do to this day. I go to as many meetups as I can, and I'm just constantly learning. And I was at an event a couple weeks ago, and I just found this new service, and they screen leads for you. They pull a farm, and they also have a skip tracing company. They get you all the phone numbers, and then they do a call blast, and then they take the leads that come in, and then they fill out a lead sheet for them, and then you get that lead. So I'm trying this new service out. If it works well, I'll refer it to you guys. I'll wait and see my results first. But I mean, that's just like taking all the legwork out of it for you, right? If you're getting these leads, I'm doing that out of state for the Indiana properties, but that's also good.
Are you recording that event?
No, our speakers don't like to be recorded because they then feel that they have to give a sanitized discussion.
Right.
So you got to be there live.
So if anybody goes live and I somehow don't make it, take notes for me. I'll try to make it though. Anyway, let's go into like setting up. I think obviously if you're a newbie, learning how to underwrite a deal. Okay, so who's never done a flip and wants to do a flip? Okay. So you want to be a wholesaler. So
well, I initially want to just be an investor in general.
yeah. You're going to start wholesaling and make money. So your job tomorrow is to comp 5 properties. All right, and send them to my email address. I think. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. But essentially, I mean, what I do for comping properties, if it's just like a cookie cutter house, you know, I have the MLS because I'm also a broker, but we do a ½ mile radius from subject property, 20% smaller, 20% bigger for square footage, and that's where you start. And you go back 6 months. Not enough comps, go back 12 months. Simple as that. It's really not hard, but you got to learn the basics. And I think that she was kind of dead on with that. If you're new, that's where you want. And then when you're an architect, when you're looking to do value add stuff like yourself, is like, you know, look for the opportunities converting a 3-bedroom, 1-bath into a 4-2, you know, like we were talking about earlier. So those are for your skill set. She's already an architect. She can, you know, use what she's got.
The second step to that is build your network. You need to understand what the property is going to take to renovate. So like when you're going to do value add, like what he just said, you have to understand what that's going to cost. Those are the 2 components that are very important because then that calculates what you are going to pay for the property. So finding people that you can trust in the industry, like contractors, other real estate agents if you're not an agent and you are an investor. But yeah, that's another thing. So when you look at those properties and you're trying to come up with that value, there's an existing value of that property in its current condition, and then there's the after repair value, the ARV, in the repaired condition. So coming up with what that value is based on what the comps are in that area. So another, you know, there's a mistake on either end of the spectrum that I see for renovation, and it's under renovating and over renovating. So finding what that market condition demands. and renovating or calculating your renovation at that place.
And that's also too, like for me, it's like, you know, if you got to know what you're good at, and to me, like flipping houses, it's not, like in the beginning it was fun, but I don't enjoy it really like some people do. And so I kind of developed a mindset that I'd rather buy and fix and hold these properties, because most of the wealthy people I know don't flip, they hold, or they lend their own money and get half the profits on JV deals. So, you know, I think ultimately, and the thing I like about the hold model is you're not really driven by the market. If a property pencils out, the worst case scenario is that you have to reduce your rents to get it occupied. So, you know, for me, that's why I kind of like started looking outside. And but as a wholesaler, I mean, if you're really good at finding deals, I mean, you can get paid pretty big wholesale fees, and that gets you started, right? And then you can start doing the rehab. So it's a great place to start. And
the name of this game is finding the deals.
Yeah. Being a good deal finder, once you're a good deal finder, and then eventually it's like, well, I don't need to wholesale this because there's like hard money lenders like me that will lend you a lot of, like most of the money. Then you find, you know, you've done a couple deals by then, you have your own money. So it's just kind of a cyclical. So
Just get the deal. The deal's the most important.
Just get the deal, right?
Yeah.
Well, you'll find someone with money. Just get the deal.
Yeah, find the deal and get
There's
really
plenty
good.
of money out there.
Money's not the problem.
Money's never the problem.
Scott?
I was just going to add to that. 2 of the last 3 deals that I funded, the investor found that deal from a wholesaler.
Yeah.
So the wholesalers are gold right now, if you can get the right deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also too, there's a lot of good like Adam Cox and certain guys that find they're agents, and they're finding off market deals, and they're trying to hustle, and so it's like building the team and building the systems.
Right, and I would also add to the wholesale thing that wholesalers have a bad rap. And so the one thing that I would say is become really good at your craft. So those 2 components that I talked about, understanding how to underwrite the deal, and then understanding, because what they're going to want from you is, what is that property going to cost? What do you have it in contract for? How much is it going to take to repair it? And then what will it sell for? Those are the 3 numbers they're going to ask you for. So get really, really good at those numbers, and then just stay in integrity. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think now, can we talk about just like maybe if you're a middle of the road investor, you've done a few deals, you have pretty good success, but you're trying to scale up. I mean, give us like the basics of how maybe to set up systems to increase our deal flow and profits and our success.
Well, there's 3 different buckets. So in bucket 1, you know, the most important part of scaling is getting the deals. And so when you have an influx of the deals coming in, it's creating a system to underwrite them quickly and efficiently, and a system for your escrows quickly and efficiently. So, I mean, those honestly are spreadsheets. Just it's checking, have checklists. Checklists are very important on the front end of this business. Same thing with the construction side of things. Have a standard repair sheet, you know, to analyze your budgets. Have a standard scope. So when we did volume, we had 3 packages for our finishes, A, B, and C. And unless a property was above what was in our market luxury, which was $500,000 at the time. So anything below 500 was just put an A, B, or C on it. And so this is the gray package, the brown package, the whatever package. So the light fixtures, the plumbing fixtures, everything was already selected. And so it was just plug how many numbers. And then Home Depot or whatever the suppliers were sent off. It's also a really good way to understand what your property is going to cost when you are doing that initial walkthrough or that initial analysis to determine what your repair cost is going to be. And then for higher end properties, those should be treated very differently anyway. And then for sales, same thing. Your marketing, what are you doing? I mean, your photographer, is it staged? Who your stager is. And then so not only are you going to come up with the checklist of what needs to be done, but also what the costs are associated with it, depending on the square footage of the house. So anytime you have something that is consistently done on every property, it should just be put in a streamlined spreadsheet, and the costs associated with it, the time frame that something takes. So, for example, you take the end time frame or the end date that you want to say list a property, for example, or the end date of when you're going to close on a property for a purchase, and then you move backwards. So say for, you want to list a property on January 1st, but the stager needs 10 days notice, just back into your spreadsheet and put the 10 days behind it. So just putting everything on a calendar spreadsheet or a checklist is, it really is as simple as that. And then, so the beauty to that when it comes to scaling, once you have created a system for something, is then you can hand it off to someone. You bring your first admin on, and you can explain the situation to them. You can hand them the spreadsheet. And the thing that I always say to people when they're bringing on their first person or any employee or consultant is explain the why behind what they're doing. So if you just hand somebody a spreadsheet and you say, check this spreadsheet off, or just, here's your system, let them understand what they're doing and what it affects if they don't do it, or how it ties into the next person involved. That's a very important thing, because when they understand the why behind something, it settles in their brain in a different way than if they're just checking a box.
Thank you. So I guess let's just take one little bucket, which is acquisitions, and let's just say, what can you give us kind of what you would have your acquisitions people do on a daily basis? So anybody like a wholesaler, anybody that needs to, instead of just coming to like meetings and never taking action, maybe this is a good place for anybody who's hasn't taken any action yet to listen, and it's a good place to start, even to do some drive runs and just start looking at a very successful gentleman one time, he said, if you want to do more deals, you have to look at more deals. It's like the most simple concept, right? So what daily activities can we do every day to reach our goals? And then also the second component of it is accountability, right? So do you get an accountability partner? What are some tips on all that right there?
Well, I think accountability partner is really important. If you're not somebody that is motivated enough on your own to stick to the things that you've set for yourself, absolutely. And these are great groups to find somebody that's in a similar craft as you, or somebody that you are in a mutual relationship. So maybe it's the guy that that does your renovations. Be in an accountability relationship with him, because he's tied to the outcome of you finding those deals, and vice versa. So daily task, weekly task, monthly task, annual task. I think this is the secret sauce, to be honest with you. Consistency is key in anything. I don't care if you're the contractor or the wholesaler or the real estate agent. Your daily activities determine your success. So if you are in the wholesaling business, you should be looking at deals or networking with people or sending out mailers or farming neighborhoods or whatever it may be daily. Whatever it is that you choose for it to be, your leader or choice of acquisition. Same thing with contractors. You should be out there giving bids or meeting with new clients or whatever it may be, lead generating for some portion of the day every single day. What else did you ask me?
I forgot.
I did too. Does anybody remember?
So we talked about, sorry, so I guess you did touch on it, but I asked the accountability component, and then if you would break down like one of your systems for your acquisitions team.
Well, my acquisitions, we didn't do direct farming for our acquisitions, so our acquisitions were multiple agents throwing deals at us at the time. Now it's less, and I don't do my own farming. I have agents that bring me deals, but it was more that system of how do you underwrite the deal and what's the most quick and efficient way to underwrite a deal was the way that we did it. Which, again, it's honestly, it's spreadsheets and checklists. You know, did you check tax records? Did you check, you know, X, Y, Z? What were the reports? What did they say? And it was, you know, it was a spreadsheet flow.
So can you kind of, what's your spiel when you were talking to realtors? Like, because that's a great source to get off-market deals, because they,
Right.
you know, they know what properties need to sell fast and they're coming to the market. Usually these houses need some work, and so the agent's working with them. And sometimes you find out they just want to sell it as is, and they're ready. They don't want to hit the market. So, how do you approach the agents? I know you have real estate experience, but what would be a good strategy?
Right. People want you to make their life really easy, and they want to know that your word is good. So if I said I was going to close on a deal, I closed on a deal. Even if at the end of the day, I mean, clearly if something came up and I'm like, you guys didn't disclose that we had beetles and termites, clearly I can't buy this house, or I need a reduction. But if I properly evaluated a house and said that I was going to close, I closed. Because when we were in a volume game, and when you're doing 200 houses in 1 year, if 5 of those deals lose money, it's not as big of a deal. But what's a really big deal is if that agent that brings you a lot of deals says that you didn't close on a deal and you burned them, they're not bringing you any more deals. So that was the most important part for us, was to make sure that that relationship stayed solid. The other thing was we handled everything. You bring us the deal, we do everything. So we handled the entire transaction. We ordered all of our own inspections. We showed up there at the house for the inspectors. We did every single piece of it, so that any agent that brought us deals, all they were doing was focusing on their part.
What's a good tip that on one of the properties, or many of the properties that was a good lesson learned that you could maybe save some people some money or time, that you maybe bought a lemon or something like that? I mean, probably a lot of them, but
Yeah, a lot of them. Oh, thank you. Foundation has come up for us. Beetles are a big one. Pest inspections can be very, very expensive if you don't get them. Between beetles and termites, you can be over $10,000, which in some deals is your profit margin. What else? Comping, honestly, I would say that's burned us more than anything, is improperly comping a property, and going a little too far out, or using a comp that is farther back, or there was a period of time where we were fading them up a little bit because the market was in an upswing, and then you start to turn down, and if you holding a property too long, that can get you, especially in a market that shifts. I would say that's probably the comping, and has probably been the biggest burn we've had, is improper comping. When you're doing volume, it's going to happen.
Thank you.
So when you guys were that active, if you're doing that many transactions, you probably were just doing more cosmetic type flips back then?
You mean like a square footage and value? Absolutely, yeah. We weren't doing a lot of that. That wasn't our model. That's more my model now, but that's not. That wasn't the model at all. Yeah.
So right now you're just doing. You're definitely not as active as you were, because you're doing some other. You went down some other routes, but you're doing local projects, Bay Area. She lives in the Sacramento area, so that's where she was. Her majority of her business when she was flipping, she was buying off those steps in Sacramento.
And Fresno.
And Fresno.
Contra Costa
And Costa.
Stockton.
And so, pretty much. But the
You
majority.
can't do just 200 in Sacramento. It's not.
But the majority were your price points were over.
They were all very similar price
Yeah.
points, honestly.
Why we selected the markets that we did was based on markets that were similar to underwrite. So part of why we went to Fresno is it was similar to, and when I said Contra Costa County, we did like Pittsburgh and areas that were similar in price to what we were doing.
Just a question that just occurred to me. So your investors that put this $30 million up, essentially, in your little fund, I'm curious where they're putting their money now.
It's a great question. I only kept one. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it got to be a lot. I was running a large team. I had, an acquisitions manager, multiple real estate agents, multiple transaction coordinators, and 2 project managers, a designer.
But
Now where they're putting their money, I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know.
But
I just told them I can't do all of this anymore. Yeah.
the money was like just a couple high net worth people.
Well, I had 3 separate funds that I had. 2 of them were just 2 individual investors. One investor had his own fund, another investor had his own fund. Then I had a private placement fund that was primarily self-directed IRAs, and I had 45 investors in there.
Very interesting. Does anybody have any questions for Brandy at this point? Because we're going to keep on going, but if anybody has any questions that they want to... Dave.
Hey, what are you doing now as far as flips? I mean, obviously the lipstick era is over, so...
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's over. There's still deals to be found. I mean, I see people finding deals all the time that are just lipstick. So I think they're out there still, but you're right.
Yeah.
I actually coach. I do a lot of coaching now, so I coach. The question was, what do I do now? Thank you. So I coach flippers on scaling their business, help them create their systems, and build their team to do volume. And I actually have a client right now that's in the Bay Area that does some properties that are more lipstick type properties. So they're out there.
You're not flipping anymore?
No, I do flip.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I have my coaching business, I just take what I like that comes to me. So I'll do, like I have done a couple properties recently in the Sacramento area that are fairly simple like that, $30,000 to $40,000 renovations. And then I do fun boutique properties like San Francisco Victorians, and I have one in Berkeley right now, and then Orinda that are complete renovations. And part of what I always loved about this business is the design. It's the interior design, the finishes. So yeah, great. I get to have fun with it. And so that's another thing that I do for my clients is finished packages. So high-end finished packages or package A, B, and C, and source just because I've had so many large accounts with vendors to be able to say, like I had a client, coaching client that was buying his stuff from Restoration Hardware. I'm like, buddy, we can get that stuff. Same look, way cheaper. So yeah, I created some finished packages for him to be able to shave a ton of money off of his renovation budgets by sourcing similar materials, similar looking and feel materials for less money. So yeah, I'm kind of all over the place right now, but I'm at a place where I do what I enjoy. I take clients on that I enjoy working with, and do flips that I enjoy or are simple.
Actually, those are 2 good. They're partners, business partners. Business partners. But actually, they would be a great. You guys, seriously, I've had 3 coaching calls with her, and it was life changing. So you guys should. It ended up. She actually coached me on relationships too, which was an added bonus. She said I'd be I should just stay and be a great uncle. But anyway, just kidding. But anyways, they have a very. They do a lot of retail. They're contractors by day, flippers by night. But they're changing their business model. But they do a lot of retail jobs for like most of the real estate community. But I think their goal is to really scale. I mean, they're doing, what do you guys have, like 12 projects going, 13, 14, 100? I mean, just your stuff.
Our stuff's
Yeah.
about 24 projects.
Jeez.
15 are ours, and then the rest are flips.
Yeah. So they're busy.
So yeah, I mean that's pretty big.
Yeah.
But most of what we're doing is square footage. You got to do value add, or else you're not going to make the
That's great.
And they're doing a lot of
So
ground
they're
up stuff
also-
too.
So when you're capable of doing what you're doing, you can also do ground up.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you can do ground up, right, that's a whole other ball game as well. Yeah, which that's really fun.
Yeah. We'll talk.
Right, that's really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think for like somebody like them, as far as systems, like I think they want to do a lot of ground up, and I think there's ways they can probably go direct to the sellers on land type deals, and then option them, and then entitle them, and then get the loans on them, so they're not carrying any
Right. So for builders like what you guys do, one of the things that you can do is kind of similar to that the model that new home construction does, where they say, oh, you have these 3 finished packages. It really is the same in what you guys do. It's just sourcing the materials for good prices and having everything tied together, but then having certain things be signature that you trade out. So say your carpet is one of the same 3, and then you do a badass light fixture in your dining room area and then a full wall of a certain tile in your bathroom. Well, that house has a completely different feel than the house that is the same, that has the exact same carpet from the previous house. So you see what I'm saying? So you can create a package that has your overall signature feel and then make some simple changes that change one custom to another.
That's good stuff. So, anyways, get a coaching call. It might help you guys. Good to see you guys.
Question. Oh, sorry.
Here, this way, Tom doesn't get mad.
Okay.
I'll repeat it, Tom.
Tell me when you're ready.
Go.
Okay. You talked about value added and new construction. A lot of us that feel this market may be frothy right now have some concerns because of the timeline that those projects take. What is your take on that?
Be really amazing and get more subs and work faster. Build it faster. Seriously, yeah. I mean, you know what's funny about that is, and you know, one of the biggest variables in new construction is the jurisdiction that you're building in. So what are their permit timeframes? So if you can get a new build in a area that you can get an over-the-counter permit, most homes can be built in 5 months if you do it right. You just have to crank through it. I mean, some of them can take a year though. Like that's the thing that I find right? That's what's interesting about this business. You know, I built a custom home for myself a few years back, and my sister had lost her location for a wedding. So I said, we're gonna do it at my house. We built my house in 5 months after getting my permit.
You're talking about Fresno now, right?
No, in Sacramento. Yeah, in Sacramento. Yeah, so I mean, and I've done it. It's possible, but really, what it comes down to is amazing project management, and you're spending a little bit more money on your subs because you're not getting the you know, entry level subs. You are spending a little bit more, and so that's what I would do. I would if it were a market like this, and I was doing custom
building. A lot
building.
of the counties we're dealing, it's taking a year or longer
San
to get
Francisco.
plans approved
Yeah.
before you can do anything.
Berkeley.
Berkeley, I just finished my Berkeley house is finally in escrow for the
It'll
third
take
time.
12 to 15 months to get rezoned.
Honestly, if it were me or an investor that I was representing, I wouldn't do it in this market. Yeah.
But the other thing I keep on looking at is that there's like no inventory still, right? I mean, that's always the dilemma that, you know, prices have gone up tremendously and affordability is kind of getting really tough, right? And so the question is, I don't know, it just reminds me a lot of 2007, although then there's no inventory. The only difference now is it's harder to qualify for financing. Back then, we were writing loans stated for, you know,
It's very different.
yeah, the money has to be verified to a certain degree. Although lenders are getting a lot more loose, they're starting to do bank statement programs and stated now, so, but it's not nearly like it was.
One of the important things that we've always watched is the affordability index, and that's the thing that's starting to make me a little nervous, because jobs aren't going up in. Right. We don't have an influx of jobs. We don't have an influx of wage increases, and so we're just kind of pushing the market outside of the affordability index, and that's where it gets a little weird for me.
Especially at the top end.
Right, yeah.
So the question, how does the affordability index impact out-of-state investing?
Well,
It's different in each area.
here you go, repeat your question. Let's just use a mic.
Just generally speaking, how does the affordability index impact out-of-state investing? Because I know my area very well, and I know affordability around here, but I don't know Indiana very well.
You can find out.
Yeah, I mean, I think like Indiana, like if you're looking at markets that don't historically appreciate like they do in California, I mean, if you look at their appreciation schedule versus California, it's like completely different. It's this versus this, you know, and so my kind of thought now is that if I'm buying, well, I'm buying and trying to rent to postgraduate students in Indiana, and people, you know, in a down economy. One of my friends studied econ, right, in college, Bill. You're the one who told me this, and it makes sense. In a down economy, more people go to college, right? So if I'm buying by a university, I'm pretty insulated. I mean, Notre Dame College isn't going to go anywhere, I don't think, until online becomes, you know, until Uber gets onto college and then there's some kind of new app. So I think that insulates you. And also, you make your money buying right. If you buy right, you're going to make money even in a down or up market. You can flip properties. So just make sure you have a lot of skin and get your shit done.
That's very true. When
Finish
we were
construction.
flipping volume, when we first started, it was a down market. So we were fading down on our ARVs.
Yeah. Just when you're doing your pro formas, instead of like, oh, well, I'm going to be able to sell for 500, you know, maybe it's, you know, don't stretch it, be conservative on your values, and it's going to help you in the long run. Okay, so let's touch on kind of like what you're doing now and how you use your real estate business in coaching, and kind of like what real estate taught you and how you're helping others in different ways, not just in real estate.
Well, my primary focus now is helping flippers or real estate investors scale, and life balance coaching. Because what happened for me when we were flipping on scale is I had 2 small children and what became a failing marriage because I was working like crazy, and even when I wasn't working, my head was always in the game. So what I coach on now is getting our heads out of the game when we're not in the game, especially if you have children or a marriage or a relationship that you really care about. Be very, very intentional and purposeful when you have carved out the time for, like I said about the lead gen. When you're in lead gen, be all in. Be focused, present, sit your phone down unless you're making calls, get the Facebook off, you know, Instagram, whatever it is that's your distraction, and shut it all down and be incredibly focused, but also do the same when you're with your family. And that's where I made a really bad choice for many years, honestly. Was I couldn't turn it off, and so it was, you know, I'd get done at the end of the day and I'd be either upset from whatever didn't work out that day, or, you know, whatever fire I had to put out, or I would be hopped up on, you know, adrenaline from the deal that I had just, you know, got, which is amazing. It's such a great feeling. It's a rush. But I would come home with whatever it was, and I wasn't in the game of my life and my family. So that's the main thing I teach on right now, is how to turn it off, and how to balance your life in such a way that when you are doing whatever bucket it may be, that you are incredibly intentional, purposeful, and crushing it.
Yeah, I think that's important, because I've been in real estate pretty much in different capacities for 18, 19 years already. And, you know, it's just, it's being able to focus, because if your real estate's a high and low kind of business, it's like, you know, one minute you're doing great, then all of a sudden you lose a deal and you're depressed. And it's kind of
But that is the business. Like that's the thing.
That's the thing that we have to train our minds, is that the business is the wins and the losses, and the losses aren't even, I wouldn't even consider them losses now looking back, is it was just part of the game. That's all this is. We're playing a game called, you know, real estate investing, and the game is, you know, you hustle, some of them you get and some of them you don't, and if you're hung up on too many minutes or what turn into hours and days on the one that you lost or the one you lost money on, that is taking you away from getting on to the next one, and the game is getting on to the next one.
Perfect. I like that. That's what I definitely need. So I think we're gonna end our discussion because I don't want to take too much more of Brandy's time. But is there? She's gonna stay for a little bit. Is there any other questions that anybody wants to know on anything they might? Kenson.
Do you mind sharing your spreadsheets on how to underwrite?
Do you mind sharing your spreadsheets on underwriting? Yes, for a small fee, we'll share those. You think I'm lying, Kenson? Okay, and Kenson's working on, Kenson's he's a developer, right? He does website development, so she might trade you.
I'll trade you.
Service for her form.
Yeah.
Okay, we gotta see your development though, but that's good. He's working on a
You
new,
know how to code.
he knows how to code,
Yeah.
right? He knows how to do it all.
Yeah, I have a question about outsourcing.
Yeah.
So, if, like when I got started, I was doing something, doing it, and then when I learned it, I outsourced. I
Great.
started outsourcing
Smart.
it. But right now I'm really busy, so I can outsource other things. So, what are your thoughts as far as outsourcing something you haven't actually learned, like other lead generation tasks?
Give me an example.
Like making calls. Like I was making calls to a certain type of seller, and I got really good at it, so I showed it.
But what are you talking about that you haven't learned that you want to outsource?
Because I mean the way I do it, I approach sellers depending on their situation, like foreclosures or probates, so that's what I'm talking about. Since I don't know.
So you're saying you want to add another cold calling leg to your business that isn't something that you've done before?
No.
You're probably going to have to partner with somebody that's already doing it at a high level. You can't really train on something that you don't know, unless they've done it. There's a language. There's a finesse. This piece that you're talking about is one of the hardest things to outsource. Sales and closing. This is a very. It's part of why those we're in this room together. So if you can find somebody that is a closer and has that energy about them, that can, have the finesse, and you can teach them the lingo behind what what you're trying to get them to do. But if you don't know the lingo, you can't really train them.
I think what I heard you say, this is my mediator training. What I heard him say is he is, no, I'm a volunteer mediator, seriously. And so you're trained to listen. And so,
I will not take offense to that.
and so, actually, this goes back to the relationship stuff. This girl said I was a bad listener one time years ago, and it pissed me off because I'm a good listener. You are good on the phone, and you want to outsource that.
I've done it already with a certain type of seller, like a certain type of seller. So now I can do the same thing with other ones, and I've done it when I do it every once in a while.
Yeah.
But I haven't mastered it. So, should you outsource something before you master it, or just when you get the hang of it, or once you go after you master it?
I don't know. I think if you're doing foreclosure calls, let's say, just write out. I mean, if you go to any guy that teaches real estate, they write out your script, and then for the next bunch of calls you do, just record them and then share them with your, and then find somebody that gives good phone.
Yeah, you have to know the lingo. You have to be able to tell them the script that they're going to use. But you can find scripts for different things. So to be able to train somebody and hold them accountable and all of that, I mean, you have to know enough about it. I don't think you need to be a master though. I don't think that piece is important. But you have to be able to tell them what they're going to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think somebody said if they can do it 70% as good as you, just
give it to them.
right.
Yeah.
And then the other stuff, like I've been outsourcing,
And then if they don't convert, you got to let them go.
Yeah, pay them like a small, hourly rate, and then they're on a completed lead sheet, they get X, and then a completed deal, they get X. I mean, that's what I see a lot of the guys that are really scaling up doing stuff like that.
I really like what you just said about tying them to the back end. That's such an important piece to this business. The more often that you can tie someone into the performance of the property especially when they're on the acquisition side. And no offense to wholesalers, but if you can get someone that you work with, that you say, you bring me deals and I'm cutting you in on the profit, guess what? Those properties are going to be underwritten really well. So kind of same thing. So pay maybe a small minimum wage type of wage, and then say, for every deal you convert, blank, you get more money.
All right, guys, why don't we give Brandy a huge round of applause. I think we're gonna have her at REI Bar Camp. Hopefully, if she will come, and then there's gonna be breakout sessions, and then she'll probably lead a discussion on systems for real estate investing, and we kind of break it down. So REI Bar Camp's good because we do little micro sessions on different topics. So it's really good to kind of learn. Michael was there the last 2 years, and everybody really enjoys his sessions. He can teach on pretty much any subject. So, and it's more of a collaborative type event. But what we forgot to do today was, does anybody have any wants or needs? Because you can get the mic right now if you have a deal that needs to be funded, or if you want a wholesale deal, or if you have money to lend, you can get up here and do another spiel. Anybody?
It's great you do that.
Yeah, I forgot to do it.
It's smart.
Oh. Come on up here. Use the mic.
I can't see it.
No.
Yeah. Don't be bad. All right.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Bo. By the way, it's been said that there's a reason we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So, just to dovetail on what he said. Anyway, we've got a class coming up. If you're in the rehab game, I don't care if you're a newbie or you've done a number of projects, there's going to be something for everybody in this class. It's called Going Rogue with Rehab. And property rehabbing done right. It's my project manager who oversees our projects, and it's filled with a ton of tips and tricks and traps on how to shepherd the projects through from the start, through the permitting process, the planning process, the scope of work, the design choices, which are going to be far different in Vallejo than they are going to be in Mill Valley or Ross. And we'd love to have you come out and visit with us. It's a 2-day class in April 9th, 8th and 9th. And grab one of the flyers. I've brought a few with me tonight. I think you'll get a lot out of it. So thank you so much.
Welcome. Rich, you had a question?
I was just going to ask, is it possible to maybe go over notes for like those of us that can lend? But I have money to lend, but I haven't lent before, and I'd like to know more about it.
Yeah, we have pretty good experience. There's actually third-party services that will do your loan documents and everything. I highly advise them. I have a couple referrals for you. But yeah, you got to be careful. A lot of people lend money, and they don't, there's always lessons to be learned. I mean, I just learned something, what to include, like it's trial and error, what to include in your notes and things, penalty clauses, because at the end of the day, sometimes you have to foreclose, and that's just the bottom line. It's not fun, especially when it's your buddy, but sometimes you got to do things. But yeah, we could talk. We could do at REI Bar Camp. We can have a breakout session on that. Maybe we can get one of the services that come in, and they'll actually process the deal, and they'll do the documents for you and put you in compliance. You definitely want to have a professional service.
And an attorney.
Well, yeah, and also if you're unlicensed, if you don't have your California BRE, you're only allowed to do a certain amount of those. If you're actively, so you got to know kind of like what you can do and what you can't do, and when you need like a real estate broker involved if you're doing these type of loans. And it also depends on how you're structuring them too, because sometimes some people will do seconds, like you'll do a second, but you maybe get a percentage of the profits. So there's a lot of variables, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of education out there to learn all that stuff. But you got to be, it's a little bit harder than it seems. Any other questions?
I have a property for sale. Can you talk about that?
He's got a property for sale. Let's see if it's good.
You guys are lucky on this. Usually we wait till our deal maker sessions that we do each month. But this one's in Stockton. We've been working on it for 6 months. The probate referee just got things pushed through. It'll be ready to close in about 2 weeks. But it's a house in Stockton. Just quick numbers on it is $150 is a retail on it. We're selling it for $94. It needs about $25 into it. So if you're interested, come find me after the meeting and I'll tell you more details about it.
Stockton, it's a single-family home, acquisition price $94,000.
Rehab 25,
Okay, so you're in it.
ARV is about 155.
Okay, so there's some skin on the bone, hopefully. We're just, that's a smaller number than we're used to out here, everything out here. So it's, so sometimes those inexpensive areas, I mean, they're a good place to start too, because raising $1 million versus raising 100,000 is a little bit different, less risk and things like that. But you also got to know the market too. So anyway, any more haves, wants, or needs? Well, I thank you guys for coming, and we'll see you the 22nd for the lunchtime mastermind. All right, thanks, guys.